Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. Happy Thursday to you. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Somebody died on Wednesday, but you made it to Thursday. Happy Thursday to you. Listen, I wanted to share real quick before everybody around here wakes up and I start on my journey throughout the day, because I sure been and forgot it as soon as I walk out that door. Listen, I'm not sure if the lighting is all right in here. Let me see. Okay, there we go. I pray that's better. Is that better? I hope it's better. If it's not, then I have no idea what to tell you other than close your eyes and pretend it's better. Listen, I wanted to share real quick before we get too late in the day. Put my AirPods in. That way we can hear each other. Okay. I have a little bit of difficulty finding, I think, a secure space to do devotion. So I really don't like being too loud. You know, noise is a problem for me. I think when you come to any age over 22, and noise just becomes a hindrance to your faith and belief. So I struggle with doing devotion at some of the hotels and stuff I come to, because I'm a little slated by waking up the people that are staying next to me. Catch it now. You know what God told me? He said, so I want you to take note of this, Jeremiah. So, okay, cool. I take note of it. When you go to the hotel, them people next door that you be hearing all night, he said, how come they don't be as concerned and consumed about if you hear them the way that you be concerned or consumed about if they hear you? So you doing devotion, you doing my will and my word. That they over there just met each other. I mean, these are strangers from they met downstairs at check-in, and they don't really even care about if grandmama or wife or husband is next door. And you gonna come here and shade on me, and I've been better to you than them folk that just met. And I think I thought it was kind of funny, but it gave me moment conviction. It'd be like, where's that verse that says, if you are ashamed of me in front of your friends, your family, in front of strangers that are staying next door to you, then he'll be ashamed of me. I definitely don't want him to be ashamed of me. I think there was moment conviction for me to tell me there's some places that we shield and shame him. There's some places that we don't allow him the grace to come here and change the atmosphere because we're consumingly concerned about what my neighbor thinks. In light of shade, not to anybody, but just word of conviction with you, that your neighbor can't change you. That the folk that you are biased on if you should share with them what God has done for you. They can't really help you at the end of the day. So don't stifle it. Don't don't smother it. Don't don't rob God of the opportunity to get the glory someplace because you struggle with if you're ashamed of him or not. So today I wanted to talk about the story that's not being told. I'm glad I made it out. I look at significant reason for sharing today would just be Job chapter 1. And I want to come at it from different perspective, but I want to come at it nonetheless because I feel like some of us find ourselves in just that place where we're caught up in somebody else's story, and really we play the headlines that we know it because you were a part of it. And Job chapter 1 tells a story of a man who's gone through a lot in his life. You remember the story of Job. It's not something foreign, but I think it's something we that we know it until we found out there's other people of significance in the story. We know the story of Job because the enemy comes in the presence of the camp of God and then greets him with quietness, but God brings alert to the atmosphere to say, Satan, where have you been? And there's some places that you have to bring alert to the atmosphere around you and say, enemy, where have you been in my victory that I've been unable to see it based off of what is around me? So you can't get distracted. You can't get consumed in who showed up that you forget about the God who grew you up. You can't get confused at everybody around you and start to forget that it was God that brought you. It says that he came in with the sons of God. He came in amongst them, catch it? But God had to bring light to, wait a minute, there's an enemy in the room. We get so caught up in friends being here. We get so caught up in people being around you, supporting you, cheering for you, that God has to outline for you, wait a minute, there's an enemy in the room. You got to begin to know that everybody who comes to clap for you is not on the side that you think that they are. You got to know that just because people show up, just because people lift your name up, just because people come in here just to affirm you in this season does not mean that they're in the plan and God's planning or working out for your winning on the end. He says, hold up, wait a second. Something that y'all missed. There's an enemy in the room. So God asks the question, where have you been? The enemy responds, he's been in the earth, going back and forth, going to and fro. And then God puts him on assignment. Catch it. Almost finished here. I just want to get to this one. There's one point beyond Job. So have you considered my servant? But I beg there, the question nobody asks, is what was the conversation preceding this moment? We pick up at the text, at the story, at the time when we talk about Job, who this book is about, seemingly. But when we come to chapter 42:10, you got to know that the story changed, not because Job found himself faithful to stop complaining and start thanking God, but because he started praying for his friends. You catch that? The whole chapter 42 is a conversation God is having, not with Job, but having with the friends of Job. You know, the ones who showed up and was like, didn't you do something wrong? The ones that showed up and wanted him to take responsibility for something that he didn't even do. In chapter 1, I find out that the comma that's excluded from the text, it's the same one that is excluded from your story that you didn't get to tell it. That I think many times we find ourselves on the other end of justice because you didn't get to tell your side of the story. And God says, I want you to reserve it because there's only one light form of the verse that I needed you to tell. You notice that chapter 1, verse 13, when the attack starts to come down, it says the one came in from the son's house and said, everybody in the house died, but I alone made it out. We come to the next one and it says, Master, I just showed up. Excuse me for cutting you off, said to the man who came from the kid's house. I just came from the sheep pasture to tell you that all the sheep died, but I alone made it out. And right when he's talking and getting out his story, somebody else comes in and says, hold on, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, excuse me, but I just came to tell somebody as well that I alone made it out. Everybody else died though, but I alone made it. I want to tell you today that the story that doesn't get real light in here is the people who made it out, who should have died in it. I'm talking about the plan of attack that was over you, but God didn't see it. You popular enough to get the storyline, but you still made it out. And today I'm thankful. Today I'm grateful. Today I am excited that I was one of the ones, not Job of the story. I wasn't one of the friends of the story. I didn't get the highlight nor the highline. But I came to tell somebody that even though it was shaded on, though folks, you didn't get the story in it, even though the title wouldn't have your name in it, you may not get accolades for it, but you got to begin to thank God on the inside that though I don't have the popularity, God, I thank you that I made it out. See, there was some stuff that people died in that they don't even know the hell and the high water and the stuff that you struggled through to come through to get here where you are now. And don't bring light to the fact that you went through it, but bring fact to the fact that you came out of it. See, it ain't always about what you've been through. I know you've been through some stuff. I know God has been surviving you and providing for you. But at the end of the day, I come here to tell somebody you don't need to know the whole story. Just know I made it out. Just see, we get caught up in the details of it because folk love to gossip and run with it. But at the end of the day, I made it out. You can't hold me to what I did, to what I used to how I was, to what you knew me as. You can't hold me to none of that. You know why? Because I made it out. And the sign that God's hand is still on you, the sign that he hasn't forgot about you, the sign that God's grace is still around you, the sign that he ain't gave up on you, the sign that you still have a destiny ahead of you, the sign that God has his faith, the glory, light, a shade on you, the sign that he ain't through with you, the sign that God still wants greater for your future is what is it? That you made it out. Yeah. It's not that you died in it, because there was weaker people who thought that they were stronger than you, who didn't make it out of this. I'm not talking about death, because there's some people who lived through it, but they couldn't come out to say, God, I thank you that I brought. Thank you that I brought everything that you entrusted me with. That's just my praise and my story. Come here to not forget about you. But every one of them showed up. They said, everything around me died, didn't survive. All of the stalks cleared out. All of the sheep, the donkeys, the cows, all that stuff. There's none existent, but I made it out. Today, that's what I wanted to tell somebody. So on your Thursday, when you're walking through it, on your Thursday, when you come to a place where you want to forget about him that he brought you, when you get caught up in the stress and the trial and the circumstances of the world, when you find out that some family are really enemies and they sit in the camp with you, before you begin to like cuss them or push them or walk out on it, hold on, remember that you made it out. Yeah, you made it out. And so a lot of this story ain't even about you, but you only had one verse and one way. At the sign of significance that this plays in your life is this. You may only get one shot to share. So it puts volume and weight and gravity on the word that you actually share. When it's your time to speak, what do you say? You talk about what y'all did last night. You talk about how you got your hair done or what you gonna get it. You talk about how the kids are dressed today, how you bought the car. So I know that God's been good to some people. I know he's been greater to others. And I know my life don't look like all that I would want it to. But I just came on the day to tell somebody I made it out. I made it out. I made it through it. I know I was supposed to die in it, but I came out of it. I know I wasn't supposed to make it and see it through, but I came out of that too. And somewhere you got to begin to testify on the inside of you. God, I thank you that for the opportunity, listen, to come here and share it. That there was stuff that was bigger than me that died around me. There was stuff that was greater than me that died around me, that didn't survive this war, didn't survive this fight. But good God, I thank you for the opportunity. That's all in Kroger. I'm thankful to be here because I made it out. That's all in Walmart. I'm thankful just to go down the aisle. I made it out. I'm thankful that in my driving, when I should have ran off the road, when I should have ran into that truck the other day 13 times, I thank God that I made it out. And some of y'all got to begin to look back over the stuff that he brought you through. No, it wasn't how smart you was because you wasn't that. No, it wasn't how pretty you was because for real, you ain't even that. It wasn't even how handsome you was because that ain't it. At the end of the day, it's because God brought you out, allowed you to come out. And you shouldn't come to a place of being shamed of him, especially when you got folk next to you who screaming all night. They don't even know the people that they screaming for. He said, this is what I want you to know, that I provided you the opportunity to share it. What do you say about it? I made it out. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. I got about 3 other patches of scripture that I wanted to go down, but he said, Jeremiah, before you say any of that, say this. What's that, God? Tell the people, let them know that in their testimony time today, that don't share shade, don't share that story of what they did last weekend. You tell how they shouldn't have but could have, and God still brought them out anyway. You hear me? He brought you. That should be enough. That he's been pulling you. I'm thankful for him to be a puller today. It ain't always how I think it should be. You don't always get light of testimony to share your whole story, but in a summation form. The grace of God allowed you to come here and to share just for a few seconds. Excuse me, I don't mean to offend nobody. I don't mean to cut nobody off. I just came to say, stronger people died. Greater people fell prey. I just came on to show up in the room on today. I thank God that I made it out anyway. That's it. God bless you today. I made it out.